Hello everyone. In this presentation, I'm going to try to share with you an article by Freeman, Katz, Gomez, and Burns titled English for Teaching: Rethinking Teacher Proficiency in the Classroom. The article starts with a description of the state of English language teaching in developing countries by Vedder. In this description, it is possible to see that English has become a compulsory subject even in basic schooling in many developing countries. However, the desired outcomes have not yet been observed despite the huge human and financial investments. Reports suggest that there are relatively few state school classrooms in which most learners are developing a usable knowledge of English. At this point, the authors of this article ask this question: how can we, as teacher educators and researchers, support classroom teachers so that most learners are developing a useful knowledge of English? There is a well-established notion argued by Johnson and others that language classroom represents a specific context in which teachers do work that draws on certain types of communicative abilities. In a learning setting where CLT methods are used, it is expected that teachers teach entirely in English. However, in reality, this is not generally the case, and the reasons for failure are caused by the teacher's lack of proficiency in English. So, a widely used method to fix the problem is to improve teachers' command of English. Scholars who hold this belief assume that increasing the teacher's general capacity in English will lead to improved classroom teaching and thus to student learning. However, the issue is far more complex than it appears on the surface. What should be done instead is to connect teachers' general language proficiency with their familiarity and knowledge of classroom practices. In the context of this analysis, the authors of this article developed a different construct for ELT classroom language, and they refer to it as English for Teaching. English for Teaching is both a language and a knowledge construct. In other words, they want us to perceive English as both the medium and the object of instruction. So, how did they embark on this journey? In 2010, the authors began to develop an alternative way of thinking about teachers' classroom language. They worked with language teaching experts from 12 different countries. The group first defined the classroom teacher, who is expected to teach English in English. This is a teacher who uses English partially or completely as the medium of instruction, who is familiar with classroom routines, including basic classroom management and teaching strategies, who is expected to use a defined curriculum, this is often the nationally prescribed curriculum, who draws English language support from instructional materials, who is teaching students who are at the beginning or intermediate levels of general English proficiency, and who uses English to interact with students. Okay, now let's continue with how they designed the construct. The English for Teaching construct identifies relevant language skills that the teacher can draw on to perform instructional routines. Teachers know the tasks and responsibilities of their teaching situations, and they know the social and interactional contexts of their classrooms. When teachers draw onto this local knowledge to scaffold the English needed to implement it, their sense of authority and expertise in their classrooms is enhanced. Because the language is organized according to what the teacher knows and does regularly, it supports her using language understandably in these often complex instructional situations. What are the specific tasks and routines, and what do we mean by them? The group I had mentioned before analyzed 10 national English language teaching curricula to gather common instructional tasks and routines. They also made use of classroom research and classroom language data from different countries. In the end, they grouped the tasks and routines into 3 functional areas as follows. The first one is managing the classroom. The second one is understanding and communicating the lesson content. And the last one is assessing students and giving them feedback. For example, to manage the classroom, the teacher uses particular classroom management language skills. While doing this, the teacher connects her English language knowledge to its situated use with students in her classroom. To understand and communicate lesson content, she uses English language knowledge to communicate the content. And to assess students and give them feedback, the teacher connects that content to how it is situated in the classroom. Now let's take a close look at this table to make things more concrete. Here we can see that greeting students is a classroom routine, and in the functional area, it serves for the purpose of managing the classroom. In real life, it is the type of language when people greet and salute each other. And to do this, the language skills needed to be performed in the classroom are speaking and listening. Let's now go into more detail and have a look at the functional area more closely for a different example. While students are doing a role play in the classroom, the teacher assesses students and may need to provide them with feedback. In the language exemplars column, we can see some possible patterns that can be used by the teacher. In short, we can say that English for teaching is a specified subset of the language that might be used to enact lessons. This language is restricted to a predictable group of common classroom interactions. This language is also scaffolded by common tasks and routines. This way of creating boundaries for language content is critically important on three levels. The first one is, it allows for language that is directly applicable to the classroom in place of the broader notion of language proficiency. Another importance is that it encourages teachers to use what they already know about teaching and about their classrooms, and also the limiting of the language construct can facilitate development of the learning materials, training programs, and assessments that focus on teachers' language proficiency used in the work of classroom reality. I'm approaching the end of the presentation, so I think it's time to start talking about the implications of this approach. The first implication is related to the education programs and how they can be designed. This approach focuses on the specific English skills that teachers need for the work they do in their classrooms, not on general language proficiency. So, if structured in this way, teacher education programs may allow teachers to develop or refine the language skills they need to perform these identified tasks and routines in English. English for teaching can help teachers make more efficient use of their time, energy, and experience. Another implication may be on creating assessments. If teachers' assessments can focus on actual classroom work of teaching rather than general language knowledge, teachers are likely to benefit. In this case, the assessment structure and actual tasks can reflect what teachers need to do when they prepare for and teach lessons. And the last one is about articulating criteria, because it is very difficult to develop criteria for teacher knowledge and classroom performance at a single global standard. This is because national expectations, local classroom practices, and global knowledge base do not match easily. However, the approach of globally benchmarked and locally valued performance allows for distinguishing between descriptive information and how that information is valued by national or local policies. In this way, the approach can provide information on how performance aligns with globally set benchmarks. Yes, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening to me.